Hey everyone, Golden Ninja 3000 here again. Today I'll be reviewing WandaVision Episode 6, All New Halloween Spooktacular. Before we get into it, I do have to remind you guys that there are spoilers in this video. I'm going to be discussing some pretty big moments, so don't watch this video if you haven't seen the episode yet. Now that we've got that out of the way, we do have a lot to talk about this week because this was like the long awaited Halloween episode. We've been waiting for this episode for over a year, like since we got our first look at like the classic Scarlet Witch costume that Wanda would be wearing. I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed by this episode. It's still my second favorite WandaVision episode, but most of that's because of that classic costume. It did a lot of the heavy lifting. Because all of the big moments were ruined for me in the leaks. That is my own fault. But again, that's just why it was a little bit disappointing to me. But then the other thing is that this episode was way too short. It really needed to be longer, and I don't just mean at the end because I didn't like how it ended so suddenly, like with the wall expanding. So I wish that we got like a few more minutes at the end. But even besides that, like Wanda and Vision like weren't together at all in this episode. I really would have liked a little bit more of the family like together on Halloween, I guess. I don't really know how to say it exactly, but I really wanted this episode to be longer than it was, and that's the first time that I've really been like disappointed by the runtime of a WandaVision episode. The other odd thing is that this didn't seem to be the 90s era that everyone expected it to be. It does seem to be pretty influenced by the early 2000s, from the Malcolm in the Middle style intro to then like the Minecraft logo, the game that the kids were playing, and then even the movie theater sign showing the Parent Trap and the Incredibles. So that was surprising to me, although I guess the 80s episode, it was like late 80s, early 90s with like the Roseanne and like Full House influences. So I guess it makes sense that this one would be 90s, 2000s. But I just didn't expect it to be blended in that way. So it did feel a lot more modern to me. But I do like that because obviously, since I'm only 19, I know modern sitcoms much better. I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle, but I still feel like I related to this one, like the style of it, a little bit more than I did to the past ones. So I'm really excited to see like where we go next week with the 2010s episode, but that's getting a little bit ahead. So starting off with the sitcom stuff, like I said, I liked the early 2000s influence. I loved the kids. I really liked, the way they talked at the camera, and their Halloween costumes were just fantastic. Billy's was definitely my favorite because he's my favorite twin. I also really loved how they started developing powers. I thought that we would see that, and I'm really glad that we did. Although, again, this is one of those things where I wish they spent a little bit more time because, yes, Billy developed like his like kind of telepathic powers because he heard Vision calling for help and he could kind of see through Vision's eyes. But he didn't like use his magic at all. Like he used his magic for one brief second to like stop Tommy, but it was so quick I barely even realized that like that was him using magic for the first time. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of Billy's powers, but we did get a lot of Tommy and Pietro like interaction, and I do really like that dynamic. I liked that they were kind of dressed in the same classic Quicksilver outfit, and I do like Evan Peters as Pietro. He fits with Wanda much better than I thought that he would. I have to say, him being in the classic costume did help as well. However, there's definitely something fishy going on with him. Like there just is. First of all, he's nothing like the old Pietro. He's like, "Oh, I don't know why I look different. I just heard you calling for help and I woke up in this body." And it's like, but that wouldn't give you a different personality because he does act like a man child and he is like much cockier and much ruder than like Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver was in Age of Ultron. Part of that could be just the sitcom typecasting, like the role that Wanda's cast him in. But then the other thing is that he says that he has no memory between dying and then Wanda needing his help. But then he also made the comment about how your dead husband can't die twice. How would he know that Vision's dead if he has no memory in between those two things? So a lot of what he says doesn't add up, and then also just the way that he was like bugging Wanda, where he kept like asking her like, "How did you do it? Like it's okay, you can trust me." That totally makes me think that he's either Mephisto or working for Mephisto, because why would he want to know so badly? I don't know why Mephisto would want to know about this, because I think like everyone's assuming that he put Wanda in here, but it's just very odd to me that he was so insistent on kind of like knowing the secrets of her reality. I did really like the sibling dynamic between Wanda and Pietro, though. I thought like that flashback, like that fake childhood flashback scene was pretty funny. And, just a lot of the little moments. I like that they had a frank conversation about what Wanda's doing. Because, yes, we know that she's controlling the town now. It's so messed up. And I think it was even more messed up for her to just be having a casual conversation with Pietro about it. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm impressed that you're doing this. And she's like, you don't think it's wrong? And he's like, oh, well, you handled like the ethics well. And it's like, that's even like scarier because she doesn't seem to see what's wrong with it. And so I don't know where they're going with this storyline, but I really can't wait to see it. And, speaking of kind of things that are wrong with the reality, I think it's so creepy that like people like just freeze in place when she's like away from them. It makes sense because how would she be mind controlling like 4,000 people at once? But it was like really disturbing, like seeing Vision kind of discover these secrets. And then that scene with Agnes in the car, I still think that she's Agatha Harkness, especially because she was wearing a witch costume. However, if she is Agatha, she's really playing the part of like a normal citizen very well because she was very convincing when she's like, oh, we need help and like you're one of the Avengers and everything. So I did really enjoy that scene, especially the way that Catherine Hahn, like she's such a good actress, like just the way that she can turn it on and off, like how she went from being so concerned to just being like, oh, like, okay, neighbor, whatever you say. That's just really creepy. And Vision trying to leave was also really creepy because like Wanda clearly doesn't want him to leave. Like the fact that he was being ripped apart as like the reality tried to suck him back in, that was just a fantastic scene. So that brings us to the sword parts of this episode. So I thought that Hayward wasn't really suspicious in episode 4, although I didn't really trust him either. In episode 5, he definitely started making more of those kinds of like stereotypical villain decisions, I feel like, where he was just trying to kill Wanda. But I feel like he took such like a 180 in this episode. Like he went from being like domineering and like kind of like controlling, like just because just like he just called the shots without caring about like Monica's input, right? But he went from that to just being like an all out like he was just really really rude and not kind at all to Monica, which is insane to me because like they've known each other for a long time clearly. So the fact that he would like ask her like, oh, aren't you the sassy friend, like that was just a really terrible thing to say. And then also the fact that he told her, oh, it's a good thing you weren't here when your mother died. Like I have whiplash honestly from how Hayward went from being just like mildly inconvenient to like being like an all out like really just rude person. I'm trying not to swear here, but yeah, it's kind of ridiculous to me. He's definitely hiding something. I can't wait to find out what it is. And then also Darcy's comment about Monica's cells changing as she goes through the hex. She's definitely getting powers. I still don't love that. I don't love that Monica Rambeau is getting powers from like another hero's actions, but it's a lot better than her getting powers from Wanda just throwing her out, because I think she's going to go back into the hex in the next episode, and like that third pass through will kind of what like finally gives her powers, kind of be what gives her powers. So I'm really excited for that. They're definitely building up some really interesting things. I did not expect Wanda to expand the hex like that, like so dramatically. I didn't think she'd take over the entire sword base, and it was just hilarious how she turned them all into clowns and like the entire thing into a circus. Darcy did get sucked in, which is something that a lot of people assumed would be happening, and I can't wait to see her pop up in the next sitcom. I want to see like a whole scene at that circus. I'm not sure whether I want the next episode to be a 2000s or 2010s episode. I really kind of want a second 90s episode because, like I said, this was just too short. I want more of Halloween. I feel like we still need to finish that because, again, the episode cut off so quickly with just like Wanda's eyes opening again. So I think we need a little bit more Halloween, and then I also want to see what's going on like with the circus and the sword agents, and then what's going on with the agents outside. But then I also don't really want them to kind of waste another episode on the 90s. So that's kind of my feelings about this episode. Again, it's my second favorite, but mostly just because of like those big moments and Wanda's costume. I did not like the plot as much as I liked the plot of, say, episode 5. That's still, I think, my all-around favorite episode to date. So let me know what you guys thought. In terms of, like, Lego sets for this episode, I can't really think of much. Like, obviously getting circus Lego sets would be really cool. Not something they'd ever do, but, like, if this is a dream world where I can pick and choose, I'd love to get some of that. But really, this just underlines for me that we kind of need a WandaVision minifigure series because I need minifigures of those classic costumes for all 5 of them. for Wanda, Pietro, Vision, Billy, and Tommy, I want them all in their classic costumes because those were just great ways to bring them in. I also still really want like a build of the Hex, like even if it's just like a really small section of it with like some of those lights. I really would like that. So I really hope that that's like a side build in the WandaVision set that we're hopefully gonna see. But that's it for today. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys with more videos soon. Bye for now.